welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. Chris Winn filling in for Mr. J.D. Sharp, who plans to be back tomorrow. By the way, I always love hearing that commercial. It always cracks me up. It's Dr. Orakaki, and he's trying to talk about erectile dysfunction. And when I hear that doctor's name, Chris, it just I just can't stop laughing. See, when you're chomping at the bits, what do you want to tell everybody?
Yeah, we have some breaking news coming down. You mentioned, of course, the top of the show, Brian, of the states that are forming a lawsuit against President Trump in regards to this state of emergency. Well, apparently that is the case also here in the state of Nevada, Brian, as Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford said in a statement today, quote-unquote, President Trump cannot sidestep our Constitution for a political ploy.
Good.
The administration proposed diversion of funds that would waste billions of dollars that are dedicated to supporting our military and law enforcement agencies. I am proud to join this lawsuit to defend our Constitution, our state's military bases, and Nevada's law enforcement agencies. So now you talked about the 16 states that were involved in regards to suing the Trump administration in regards to the state of emergency. Yes. Well, there's one more.
Add Nevada to the list.
Yes.
We'll take some calls on that. What do you guys think about that? 257-5396 is the number to call. You know, we had Shelley that was on before we went to break, Chris, and she had posed a question to us, and I wanted to let you respond to that. So go ahead.
Yes, she posed a question and brought up Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and other Democrats back in the mid-2000s, the support for a border wall and for border security. And she proposed in a way that made it very simple, right? We're saying, back then, there was Democrats that would support building a wall on the southern border. And now, all of a sudden, because Donald Trump is supporting it, or because Donald Trump is bringing it forward, they're all against it. And I would say to you this, okay? It is much more complicated than that. It's not, look, when it comes to border security, and that's the way I'm going to describe it. I'm not going to talk about a medieval wall. I'm not going to talk about the Great Wall of China on the southern border. I'm going to talk about what is really needed on the southern border. And to be quite frank, any border that we have, any physical border that we have, it could be used in Canada as well too on our northern border. Okay, it's about reasonable and rational border security in all aspects, whether it's physical barriers, whether it's modern technology, whether it's personnel, as far as border security, border agents and other personnel at the border that are needed. I think all reasonable Americans want that, okay? And back in 2005 or 2006, when Nancy Pelosi or President Obama, supported that, absolutely. Every person wants to keep our families safe, right? Wants to keep our borders secure, wants us to be a sovereign nation. People want that. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. It doesn't matter. So when I hear people say and ask questions like that and portray it in a way that is not necessarily how it should be portrayed, it gets very frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating for a lot of people.
Because they don't understand that, look, as myself, I would consider myself more progressive, center left, okay, type of person. I'm someone who has liberal views socially, but I'm more conservative when it comes to fiscal type of situations. I would say, look, I'm like everybody. Yes, you want to keep the border safe, but it's not feasible. And the experts, we ask the experts as a whole, in the majority, do not believe that Donald Trump's quote-unquote border wall is something that's essential and is absolutely needed right now at the southern border.
Let's take some more phone calls at 257-5396. Again, that number, 257-5396. Breaking news that Nevada has just added to one of the 16 other states that filed lawsuits to stop Trump's national emergency declaration. We'll take your calls on that at 257-5396. Let's start this segment off with Brian. Brian, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Doing excellent. Chris, your last statement is false. The experts on the border, all of the ICE people, all the immigration experts down there have all said within the last 6 weeks, they gave seminars to the House of Representatives, went to the Senate. They've done it for other various media in other cities, and that indeed they do need border security that includes the wall.
Look,
as
it's not
well as
false. You
other
said it was
things,
false.
Chris.
It's not false. Yes, includes some type of physical barriers in certain parts of the southern
Well, that's
border.
what
We
Trump's
all agree.
been saying,
You're
Okay.
splitting hairs with me right now, though, Brian. Brian, you're splitting hairs
No,
with
I'm
me.
not.
All right, yes, you are. Because
Not at
so
all.
are
You
you
know how
trying
much
to?
money-
So you're trying to tell me that we need to build a huge physical wall that goes across 2,000 miles of the southern border? Is that what you're trying
I
to tell me?
never said that. And neither
Okay,
did
well then,
Trump.
what are you saying then? So
What I'm saying,
You're
you
repeating
build
what
a
I just
30-foot
said, which is that we
tall
need.
fence, the new steel kind where it's needed, and then you put other things. You don't need it for a large section where the Rio Grande River and the cliffs are, and the mountains. In those areas, all you need is a road with some balusters so that vehicles can't go through there, and Border Patrol agents.
So why does he need $8 billion?
Yeah, I don't understand. So you're telling me that they do
me
need to
finish my
have the
statement,
allocate.
please.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead.
Back in 2007, they voted for $25 billion
Mm-hmm.
for border security.
Mhm.
Okay, for the wall. It was called the Defensive Fence Act, and every one of those Democrats, you can go on YouTube, and they're saying the exact same thing that Trump has been saying about why we need to build those fences and walls.
Then why didn't Trump?
Exactly
Then why
the
didn't it
same.
get built? Okay. If
Because all politicians, including Republicans, don't get the job done.
okay,
They
so
vote for
so
something,
they didn't get the
and
job
then they
done.
never follow through on it. So we have little bits and pieces that got built, but there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be redone. And then there's some places that need some new fences.
All right, Brian.
New barricades.
Let's take this to the national emergency.
Yes, so-
okay. So let me just roll off a few things here. We're at a 50-year low as illegal immigrants crossing the border. That's number one. Number two.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
How is this?
another-
And you're
that's another
cherry picking.
falsehood.
Yeah, he's cherry picking though too.
I want you to tell me where you're getting that from. You tell me where that's coming
There,
from, and I'll look it up.
there are numbers that are coming from Donald Trump's own
Baloney.
from his.
What do you mean
I'm
baloney?
sorry.
They
What do you
just
mean
showed it
baloney?
on Fox News this morning
Yes,
on
it's
Fox
all.
and Friends.
It's not just on MSNBC and CNN. These are
Right.
news that are coming from.
First you said it's a 50-year low, and then you say it's
Yeah.
the lowest since some other date. You
I don't
those
know
are
what you're
two
talking
different
about. I
things.
never said that.
I made one statement, and it's a factual statement that we are at a 50-year low here in 2019 of undocumented or illegal people hopping the southern border or crossing the southern border illegally.
Donald-
We are at a 50-year
And
low.
you
That
know
is
why?
that's not in dispute. That's not in dispute.
true.
That's not a
That-
debate.
that's just
It's
not
fact.
true.
It's a fact. Now, if you just
Brian.
want to
No,
deny
it's not a
facts,
fact.
then that's par for
I
the
challenge
course.
you to show me where that fact is, Chris.
There's
Next time
I
you're on
can
the program,
absolutely show you,
a
and I
week
can.
from today, you show me where you got that fact.
100%.
All right.
I can do it
I'll tell you what, Brian.
100%.
Chris will do that.
Now, let me say one other thing too. What you just told that lady Shelley
Yes,
that her brother, the death of her brother, is
Yes.
anecdotal.
I didn't say
One
that.
of the
I said that.
sorriest things I've ever heard.
And
How
it's
dare you say something like that?
no, it's
to
and
her who's lost a
you
family
understand. You understand the implication that I'm making. It is not
member. Yes,
anything.
I do, and it's a horrific thing to say to somebody who's lost a family member.
It's
There's different ways of saying what you're trying to say. But
Can I
that's
ask you a
certainly
question,
one of them.
Brian.
You
She called
preach
into the
and
radio.
you
Brian,
know.
she called into the radio show. We were discussing the topic of border security and building a wall.
All right, let's.
And it was all in context of that. There was nothing negative I said. It was nothing I didn't. It wasn't anything
And by the way,
mean-spirited.
I repeated
Yeah.
it about 6 times in that phone call. How sorry I am, and I truly
did
am.
too before.
But let me ask
we
you a
got
I
into
know
question.
you did. I'm not saying you guys didn't do that.
Brian,
Yeah,
can I
let
ask
me
you another
say what you-
question? Let me ask you a question. Can I
Brian,
ask?
on Friday when you guys were talking about guns,
Yes.
you brought up the statement again that I've told you about before, and so it's JD the caller. I call him the professor. You said if it even saves one life,
Yes.
isn't it worth making a new gun law?
How much money would it cost
So
to make a
it's
new gun law?
okay on the gun
Hold
law,
on a second. Let
but
me
it's
answer your
not
question.
okay to save the life
Let
of
me
somebody's brother.
answer your question. That's apples and oranges. How much money would it cost?
No, it is not.
Yes, it is. How is it? Would it? Are you kidding me? Would it cost $8 billion to make up gun law? Brian, you're getting me angry now. I'm going to try to calm down.
He's starting to turn red,
Yeah,
Brian.
you're
You
getting
got
me
him,
angry.
You got
because-
him steaming
okay,
over here
can
behind
I-
the microphone.
Brian, let me ask you a question before I let you go. All
Certainly.
right? Let me ask you a question. How
And
about that?
I have no problem with Trump going golfing, by the way, either.
That's a shocker to me because I know. Look, you're a smart guy. I appreciate it when you call in. Let's call it what it is, Brian. You lean to the right, and you're a big Trump supporter. Can we just call it what
I
it
am
is?
a proud conservative.
Yeah. What a shocker. What a shocker. Okay, so let me ask you this. a transgender woman who came into this country illegally that was just killed because she was shipped back to her country. Do you have that same feeling about her?
Is that anecdotal then?
I'm asking you a question. Be serious. How do you feel about her?
That's why. Is that anecdotal?
I didn't
Chris
use that word.
Anecdotal?
First of all, I didn't use that word.
Chris is calling Shelley's brother.
Okay, focus on me, okay? I'm not Chris.
Well,
I'm asking you a question.
Now you're doing the same thing.
What do you mean, guys? I'm asking you a question. That death of Shelley's brother, would you feel the same way about
the same thing you told Shelley? It's a terrible, horrific thing that somebody would attack another human being because of their gender.
All right.
Because of their sexual orientation.
Okay.
Because they have a pug nose.
All right.
Or because they're short, fat, or indifferent. That's
all right,
a terrible thing when somebody does that.
I appreciate your honesty there, Brian, and that's why I asked you the question. We always appreciate it when you call in, and I can tell you right now I'm going to defend Chris. And I'm
Absolutely.
Going to say he is. Hold on, let me just defend you and say Chris is one of the nicest guys I know, and he cares just as much about anybody dying, whether it's from an illegal or illegal. We got to get to some more phone calls because we had Brian on there for a while. Let's go to Mark, who's been waiting patiently on hold. Mark, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Patiently. How are you guys?
Good, Mark. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
I have a whole new take on this border issue. I think we should build a giant canal that connects the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean.
It's a fun discussion, I guess we can have, or a thought on your
about the advantages.
It'll never happen, though. It'll never happen.
People that are well, let me explain. These people that are coming north are looking for jobs. Imagine if we had shipping across the entire Rio Grande, all the way from Louisiana, all the way to the Pacific. We could also build a high-speed canal, which would help our military in terms of getting our carriers across.
Mark, in a perfect world,
building a canal instead of
I agree.
a wall.
Mark, it's not that we disagree with you. I agree. It's an interesting subject, but let's just call it what it is. There's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah, we could also fill the Mississippi River with chocolate and it'd be sweet for everyone to taste as it all the way down. But that's not really going to happen. Look, Mark, we get what you're saying. It's just not really feasible. It's not something that's going to happen.
Oh my God!
No,
I'm just trying to solve a problem because
we all are, man. We all are. You know what our problem is?
Everybody knows that. So let's turn it into something that's very, very economically positive.
Mark, I'm not against it.
And everybody can work there instead of this giant waste.
You know why that's not going to happen, Mark? I'll tell you why that's not going to happen. And look, you bring up a valid point, but you know what the real problem is? Republicans and Democrats not getting things done. You know what a bigger problem is? You know what a bigger problem is? A bigger problem is the president of the United States, who campaigned on we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. The crybaby didn't get what he wanted. He called it a state of emergency, and the last 3 days he's been playing golf. And the last guy who called in, who I do respect to an extent, Brian, who called in, doesn't have a problem with a president who declares a state of emergency and then plays golf for 3 days. That's the problem. People don't hold others accountable, Brian. That's the issue, and I do appreciate you calling in. But when Brian made that comment, I was like, you don't have a problem with the president playing golf 3 days in a row after declaring a state of emergency? The number to call, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Mike. Mike, thanks for calling in. How are you?
I'm doing well. You?
Doing good, Mike. What's on your mind?
This Jesse Smollett guy, the actor.
Yes, sir. We were going to talk about that. It is a bizarre story, to say the least.
Well, isn't this just so typical of how people react and how people want to focus against the president? If you got to make up stuff just to cause a race,
let me address it
like a race riot.
Well, I agree with you. Let me address this. Let me be very clear, and then I want you to respond to it. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, you're right. This if and we don't know 100%, but it certainly appears as though he hired two men to say that he was assaulted to perhaps, I would imagine, help his career. Look, if this guy did this, he belongs in jail. We all can agree on that. Here's my problem. There's always going to be idiots that are going to rush to judgment. I was not one of them. Not every Democrat rushed to judgment. But when I go on social media, you would think that the haters out there that just want to call everyone libtards or whatever think that every person on the left rushed to judgment. They didn't. However, I will also defend some of them, and this has nothing to do with Donald Trump, in my opinion, but it's very rare. and I'm sure you will agree, that a celebrity, actor, actress, or even an everyday person fakes a crime like this. When you hear that somebody was physically assaulted, you don't want to second guess them. You want to believe them because you can't come up with a reason why they would make something like this up. So I'm going to defend those people, except for the ones that blame Trump for this or blame the MAGA hat or whatever, because that's just ludicrous. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand 100%, but
Yeah.
let's talk about how the media handled it as well. They bring the guy on the television, interview the guy,
Right.
create a bunch of craziness in the media world when they don't even know the actual facts of the case to begin with.
And the reason they did that is because he is a celebrity, right? He's on a TV show, and so
Yeah.
he's a person of interest. So people that's the reason why. As far as the media's role in this, yes, there are some in the media that went down the wrong road with this and did jump to conclusions, and that's not good. Okay, that's not something that anybody should support.
Could I be very clear here to our caller? Mike, let me be very clear. If he made this up for personal gain, and
he should go to jail.
It appears that he did. I don't want to say 100% yet, Mike, because the police are still investigating, but sources tell CNN, police sources, that he hired these two men. If that's the case, and by the way, his attorneys are denying it. I don't believe it. Let me just read this quick statement by his attorneys, and then they say that he's angered and devastated by recent reports that the perpetrators are individuals he's familiar with. Yeah, I'm sure he's angered and devastated. They also went on to say he's now been further victimized by claims attributed to these alleged perpetrators. I'm not buying it, Mike. I'm sure you're not buying it. And, I'm trying to be as fair as I can here. And even Al Sharpton today, who I can't stand, by the way, because I think Al Sharpton is just a complete racist idiot. But even Al Sharpton said that if he made this up, and I give Al Sharpton credit for this, he said if this guy made this story up, he needs to be, he needs to basically go to jail. I mean, that's what he said.
Right. And the thing is the guy's on TV with the interviews, on CBS, blah blah blah, and he's got to bring up the Trump. He's got to bring up the.
Well, that was stupid. That was
and
stupid.
that's
it's just if a guy like that, I run a great life, and I don't harm nobody, this and that. And if this guy gets off with just a misdemeanor,
he won't.
Then why not? Why shouldn't everyone just start going crazy at this point?
Mike, I think he just screwed his career, and I appreciate you calling in. I really believe that. I don't think this guy's going to get many jobs anywhere after this, and if he does, people are going to criticize him for it. Wow, this is just a show, Chris, with a bunch of mics, like back-to-back mic call. Yeah, let's go to Mike. Mike, thank you for calling in. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you doing?
Doing good, Mike. What's on your mind?
Okay. So listen, Obama, when he was in office, he took many days off, and he didn't go golfing, but he spent time with his wife and kids. Okay, so let's get that straight.
Can I respond to that?
3 days on a golf course.
Can I respond to that?
President's Day, it's a 4-day weekend.
Yes.
And by the way, when Trump first put the public on notice that he was going to shut down the government.
Yes.
Last month.
Yes.
Okay, he stood in office and worked and waited for
Mike,
Democrats to come
can I
and
respond?
try to work out a deal with him. Where did Nancy Pelosi and everybody else go? Oh, they went to Puerto Rico where it's sunny and they went out on the beach.
Okay, Mike, I get it. Mike, you got to let me respond. I'll let you respond again. Just let me respond to what you just said. First of all, I'm not talking about Nancy Pelosi, so I don't know why you bring her up. Number two, Donald Trump said this in 2014. I'll read it again to you so you can listen, because clearly you didn't hear it the first time. This is according to Donald Trump. Can you believe that? With all the problems and difficulties facing the U.S., President Obama spent the day, not 3 days in a row, the day playing golf. Worse than Carter. He said that in 2014. Now, I don't know if you've read the news lately, Mike, but there was an emergency. Whether you want to debate it or not, I would certainly debate it. Donald Trump did declare an emergency. He's played golf the last 3 days. He didn't take a day off. He played golf. He was on the golf course for 6 hours on Saturday. Now, I just gave you Donald Trump's words, okay? He was just criticizing Obama for playing golf one day. And he said worse than Carter. So in a way, he's criticizing Carter. You don't think it's fair for me? I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. You don't think it's fair for me, Mike, to call out the president for his own words? Because he is a hypocrite. At the very least, can you please at least give me that?
I will say this: he had the right to take a 4-day weekend on a 3-day.
So you're not going to answer my question. So you're not going to answer my question. You're not going to answer my question. You're just going to talk over me and right-wing filibuster Trump again. I asked you a question. Can you please answer it? Do you think Donald Trump is a hypocrite for saying, can you believe it, with all the problems and difficulties facing the U.S., President Obama spent the day on the golf course? He tweeted that October 13th, 2014. Is Donald Trump a hypocrite? It's a yes or no.
You're right.
It's a
I
yes.
will say this, 100%. The politicians, whether it's Democrat or Republican,
That's not what I asked
all
you.
hypocrites. You know that.
So
I know that.
So the president's a hypocrite. You're admitting the president.
There's only one president right now, though.
I'm admitting it. You're right.
Thank you.
And so was
Okay.
Obama. So was Bush. So was Clinton. So Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, everybody.
I'll ask you this, Mike. Okay, since you're talking about everybody is the same, all the politicians. Barack Obama, all those times he went golfing, did he go golfing probably the day after or for 2 days after there was some type of crisis that went on in President Obama's?
He went home to spend time with mommy. He went home to go sit in mommy's lap.
I'm asking you, yes, was there a crisis going on, a.k.a. a potential shutdown, and then he declares a state of emergency, and did he declare a state of emergency, President Obama, and in the midst of a possibility of a shutdown, did he decide to just go and swing the clubs around a little bit and go play some golf? I'll answer it for you. He didn't.
What's wrong with that? He's on a state of alert. His right hand man, the FBI, his Vice President Pence is letting him know what's going on. If there's something that the nation was going to be attacked or something, believe me, we as a nation, Donald Trump would.
Well, you're right, Mike.
Vice President Pence is in Berlin, Germany right now.
Mike, you're right.
Mike Pence is not even in the country.
Mike, you're right, though. If there actually were, if we actually did have a state of emergency, you're right. But we don't. This is not a state of emergency, even though he declared it. Okay, that's why he's going to play golf and eating his omelets and playing golf 3 days in a row, because he knows this is not a true state of emergency. This was a campaign promise.
Vacation like everybody else. Everybody's human.
I didn't say he broke the law. I'm just saying he's showing his true colors.
He didn't break any law. The politicians do it all the time. Politicians don't hardly work, and they take more vacation than they work.
Again, my co-host Chris asked you a question, and I think it was a fair question. If there was a real bad crisis or national emergency, did Barack Obama play golf right afterwards? Look, I'm not a big defender of Barack Obama.
He went home with Mama.
What does that mean? He went home with Mama.
What are you talking about? He went home with Mama. What does that mean?
What is that?
Mama's lap. He went home to sit on Mama's lap.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? He went home to sit on Mama's lap. What does that mean? We're asking you a real question.
Because Obama doesn't play golf as much as Trump does, he goes home.
Barack. Okay, so let me phrase it. Let me phrase it another way before we let you go. Did Barack Obama take 3 days in a row off from work after declaring an emergency or perhaps a crisis? Did he take 3 days off and sit on his mama's lap, as you say, which I don't know what that means, 24/7? Did he take 3 days off? Let's forget about the golf.
Of course he did. You
okay,
just don't
you are
recall,
absolutely no. You're wrong. You're wrong, and you are absolutely full of crap. Goodbye. I don't know what that means, sitting on mama's lap. If there's anybody that sat on a parent's lap, it's Donald Trump, who sat on his dad's lap and got his $400 million company. That's whose lap he was sitting on until his father died. Okay, so don't give me with that garbage. This never happened. And a fake state of emergency, and then takes 3 days off to play golf, and none of you Trump supporters out there can admit it. I finally got Mike to admit that Donald Trump is a hypocrite after a 5-minute phone call. It is so hard to get people to admit that the guy does anything wrong. Mike is one of those guys that Donald Trump said if he shoots somebody on 51st Street, he'll still get the vote. Mike would vote for Donald Trump. And I would imagine right now Mike is sitting on his mommy's lap. That's what I would imagine. Mike, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate it, even though that call made absolutely no sense. We'll take a quick break, and I'll give you some information I have about the next possible coach of UNLV basketball when we come back. You're listening to The Vegas Take, the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.